Hello, and welcome to the Fear of Snowflakes, where we talk about the generational shift happening in today's workforce. It's a place where we get a chance to talk to leaders about how to build stronger organizations because of the change in workforce, not despite it. I'm Heather, the CEO and founder of HM Pinnacle Consulting, and I'm joined by my Gen Z co host, Beth, who helps keep not only me honest when I start sounding like every other generation talking about those kids those days, but also someone who is absolutely invited to open up and talk to us about what Gen Z is feeling and thinking in a work environment, helping leaders grow and change. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest workplace conversations happening right now: artificial intelligence. The evil AI word, or for some, like the very best friend, either way. So some leaders see AI as the ultimate workplace superpower, and others worry that this becomes a shortcut that could weaken critical thinking, judgment, and the development of future leaders. And what does Gen Z think of it all? AI isn't some futuristic technology, it's already part of everyday life today. And as AI in your workforce, is it a superpower or is it a shortcut? We're going to talk to two gentlemen today who will help us kind of navigate that entire water.
So first joining us is John Mancheski. John is an operations leader with more than 25 years of leadership experience and might be surprising to some, but he's actually one of the biggest AI adopters that I know. He uses AI daily to help him think through problems, organize information, challenge assumptions, and improve productivity. He sees AI as one of the most powerful business tools leaders have, and he's constantly asking, how can this help us work smarter? So, John, welcome.
We're also
Thanks for
joined
having me.
today. Oh, sorry about that, John. We are very excited to have you talk about AI with us. We're also joined with Brian today. And Brian is HMP's technology expert. Now, because everyone assumes that Brian's into technology, he's going to be the biggest AI fan because of that. But that's actually not the case. Brian is often the voice of caution in these conversations. He spends his time looking at the risks most people don't think about: data privacy concerns, confidential company information being shared with AI platforms, over reliance on technology, security vulnerabilities, and the long-term impact AI could have on jobs, decision making, and critical thinking. Brian isn't anti-AI. He's just simply asking the question, just because we have AI, does that mean we should use it? Brian, we're glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
So let's start with a quick, just gut reaction. When you think about Gen Z using AI at work, what's your first response? Excitement, concern, a little bit of both?
Okay. It's AI is such a amazing, but can be so scary at the same time thing. Um, yes, we have to use it, but I think at the same time, Gen Z needs to also understand how to shut it down when they need to.
Mm,
Um, just like sitting around and watching videos all the time has taken away a lot of people's ability to
social
focus.
interaction. Yeah.
AI is going to, in my mind, it's going to allow that to creep into actual work. If people are using AI for everything, the creativity is going to go out the window, and people are going to sit down in front of their computer and ask the AI to do whatever they're going to do, and they're not going to learn anything. They're not going to become experienced in what's happening. They're just going to rely on something else to make it happen.
What are your thoughts on that, Beth? Do you feel that that's what's happening in like schools and with your generation? Is it just non-human contact and only jumping on the computer to get creative?
I think, yeah, I think that some of that is happening definitely, but I also think, at least at my school that I go to, they're teaching us a lot about AI, how it got started, when to look out for like false information it's giving you. So I think that's really beneficial. Um, I definitely think, yeah, the social component after COVID, after remote work,
Yeah.
um, social interaction just keeps dwindling,
Going.
I feel.
Sounds
So,
easy.
yeah, I think that's definitely a big concern. And yeah, it's going to be hard for people like when they graduate college having to interact with their workforce.
Yeah, that's so John, as a leader, how are you doing now or going to like as they continue to graduate and jump into the workforce, but how are you going to pull them off of the computer? Because I know as a leader, one of the things that's important is communication, interaction. That is where the most creative and problem-solving ideas come from. But how do you do that? How do you pull them away and engage them?
I think it's just creating the atmosphere, right? You got to create that community with inside the workforce that you have that. But I mean, I look at the tool as a tool, right? It's like anything else. It's another tool in the toolbox, and then you got to make sure people are interacting the way they are. But the cool thing about AI, from my standpoint, with the new generation coming in, I think there's the pits that we just talked about, right? Of some of that stuff, but then the ability for people to come in and do work 10 times faster and work through a project and an idea. And I think it's still the human piece needs to be a part of it, right? You never can lose it. It's there, but I mean, I've found that you can work through a project that 15 years ago might have took 6 weeks. I'd have it put together for us to look at all data wise in 6 hours.
The
And
question,
and that's
question
awesome.
but yeah, but I'm going to push back a little bit on that. So I think when we do that, that's just our voice into the machine, as opposed to like when in normal work environments before AI existed, it was sitting in a room and troubleshooting and coming up with solutions together. But it was things like what Beth would bring to the table is different than what my history would bring to the table, which is different than what Brian's history would bring to the table. And so that combination of all of that is kind of how I think problem solving at the highest level happens. And when it's just one person inputting it into a computer that has no like actual human experiences to go off of, how can that be as good of a result as doing it through an organization of people?
So, I mean, I think you do it the same way. You just do it quicker. So you get in a room, you throw all the ideas together, you create the foundation, and you say, "Hey, look, we're going to get a little help," right? I mean, I think it's if it's one person doing it or a group doing it, or if you're loading information, what you have to understand about it is you can go from 0 to 60 with computing information. And I think that's how people have to look at it. I mean, I go, where Brian is, you got to be careful, right? We always have to have our our mind on saying, hey, is this real? Is this truth? But the understanding that it can compute information and get us to step 6 faster, and then again put our human aspect into it, right? I think it's more of a data moving conversation than just saying, hey, that's all I'm gonna do. I'm only gonna do what it tells me to do. Well, that's a scary place to be.
But so then I guess that's a question for Beth. Is that what happens? Like, are you taught to challenge the results that AI is giving you in school? Because you mentioned that it's teaching you, how to confirm that it's accurate data. But are you given the opportunity to learn how to challenge it, like pushing it harder and faster and making it think differently?
Yeah, so a lot of times the teachers will say, like, don't use it for your whole assignment, but you can use it as a jumping off point. You can use it to brainstorm first, and then you put your human touch on it. Which I think has actually been super helpful because, like John's saying, like the pace at which you can get things done, if you can get past that first like roadblock of thinking about how to do something, that changes everything. Even in group projects, like we'll use it as a brainstorming thing, but then we'll all talk about it. We'll all put our different perspectives in it. So that if I think if you think about AI in that way rather than a replacement for your ideas, that is like one of the best ways to use it.
I love that. Okay, that makes sense. So, so then I guess I'm going to ask Brian. So you're not an AI hater or disliker, but talk to us a little bit about what it is that you'd like to see, especially Gen Z, take caution in using it.
Um, personal identification.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. AI, like I like I've said in another podcast, AI can be used for good and it can be used for bad, and it is. Okay. But where human people doing good things or bad things is like one thing at a time, that sort of thing. AI is so quick now. The attacks that are coming in and the stealing of personal information is so incredibly fast now. If you are logging in anywhere, if it has the option of two-factor authentication, take advantage of that. It may be a pain in the butt to log into something and have to do a verification code or what have you, but that's a small price to pay for what we are doing now, where we are right now. Your information can be stolen so quickly. As a matter of fact, you should probably not think of it as, can my information be stolen? What you should be thinking is, my information has been stolen. Where do I need to change all of my passwords? What two-factor authentication, where and when? You need to lock down your credit. You need to lock down your social security number, but not only that, your passport number as well. Princess Cruises, what do they? Can't remember that their parent company got hacked. Okay, it wasn't just the social security numbers or credit cards. Credit cards you can go in and shut them down. It was also their passport numbers.
Yeah.
Those can't just be shut down.
So then, Beth, is that something you guys think about? Like, is like all of the identity theft and personal data theft that occurs? Or are you guys super like over the top secure anyway, and it's our generation that keeps flipping credit cards and leaving them on file on our computers?
I think we might be slightly better at it because we've grown up with it our whole lives. So we've from a young age in school we were taught about like securing everything, I guess. And with AI too, every teacher has brought up the privacy concerns and everything like that. Yeah, we for school we have two-factor authentication for everything. So yeah, but yeah, I think since we've grown up with it, it is more in the back of our minds than maybe like some of the older generations.
Wow. I think she just called us all old.
Yeah, I kind of felt that.
Yeah.
That's fine. I am old. When I was her age, computers didn't exist. Or they did,
Wow.
except they were like Commodore 65, 64, whatever they were.
So I want to touch on something that Beth said. I was looking at a horror story about how we do have to double check everything that we're putting into the systems, et cetera, right? So, and my horror story is actually personal. So I am building out my AI because it's necessary to run a business, and I know that, but it's also very scary. But in the process, I missed a meeting. And I didn't know I missed a meeting because part of what my AI is being set up to do is one of my agents is being set up to answer my emails. And it knows the priority 1, 2, 3, like threes don't touch. These are Heather's. They're more client facing kind of emails. And so we were testing it. Was pretty sure it was only supposed to be putting drafts in my draft, but no, we obviously set it up to send emails. But it had agreed to a meeting with a potential new client's training program. And I got an email a day later and I was finally catching up on emails and it said, we're so sorry that we missed you yesterday. You know, this is kind of an important training that we're hoping you'll attend if this is going to be, you know, one of the ways that you get clients from us. And I was like, what meeting did I miss? Like I know I am like scatterbrained all the time, but I was like scanning through my emails, my sent emails, and I had a sent email to this individual that basically said, hey, absolutely, we'd be super excited to join the training. Please put us down for it. We want to do business with you. Great, so awesome, except nobody put it on my calendar. So no one told me, and I missed a meeting my AI agent had agreed to. It's one of two horror stories. The other one, I have a Dahlia side business. as all of you know. And somehow my AI agent that's doing my Dahlia business, it went out to Facebook and did a post for $3 tubers. Didn't know it. And I got like mass emails from people who are like, hey, I want some tubers. What do you have left? What do you have left? I'm like, I thought I was done selling tubers because I'm tired of it. Had to go out and do an inventory in my Dahlia shop, came back in and put them in. And the last ones I was selling were like $5 a piece. And so she's like, no, 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 no. You said $3. And I was like, I didn't say $3. What are you talking about? She sent me my post. She sent me my, do you know how stupid I felt in that moment? Like, oh yeah, sorry, forgot about that post. Like, what am I going to tell her? My AI agent went rogue? Like, so there are these horror stories. And I'm like, has anyone else had any, or is it just me? Like,
That's really scary.
I know, that's what
Well,
I thought too.
you
Well,
kind of go ahead, John.
well, Heather, my question for you is, what did you do? Right? Because those are personal stories, but what did you do afterwards? Because I think there's the story. The story
Okay.
is because we're going to find the hiccups, we're going to find the things, but if you haven't done AI yet, you're going to learn the word prompt, right? You need to prompt it. So my question would be is, what did you do? Right?
Ready? I went, stop doing what you're doing. Just stop doing it right now. I left it there. It's still in limbo land, both of those agents, because I'm like, because I don't do well with the control thing, right? So it reminds me, I've read one too many books that were written way before any of this stuff existed that were talking about it, right? Or things like iRobot with Will Smith, or War Games with Matthew Broderick, or any of these things, right? I've grown up in the generation that had these horror, for lack of a better term, these horror ideas about how AI would take over. Even one of my very favorite books, Brave New World by Adolf Huxley, it's about the idea that human connection no longer needs to exist because we can function without human connection because of systems, computers, etc. And so I have all of that in my head. And so when these things happen to me, I'm in that fearful mode and I have to get past that. And I'm hoping that Beth's generation, as they enter into the workforce, can help my generation get past that and say, no, all you need to do is, or here's how you protect that, or here's what your brain should be thinking instead, right? I shouldn't freak out and just shut everything down like I immediately did when I had like 25 people wanting $3 tubers, 25 of them. It's like, but I need to learn how to use it as a tool, and where I'm comfortable letting it go or not go. But yeah, I just told it to stop. And then I think I said some not so nice things to it after that because I was,
Well, I have a question for Beth though. With AI taking over a lot of stuff, where does that is that going to shift how employment happens for you guys? Like normally a person would go, it used to be that a person would go into a business and start at the entry level and work their way up.
Yeah, so I think that's what a lot of people in my generation are concerned about is AI can do a lot of entry level positions. So companies are cutting down costs and they're removing them. And it's the job market's really hard right now. It's very difficult for first year graduates to get jobs right now. And I think it's probably going to be even worse for when I graduate. Um, so yeah, that is very concerning. And that's like one of the biggest fears of my generation right now, I'd say, about AI. So
wow.
while it is helpful, yeah, it's scary too.
See,
So
my fear is that all of these people that are coming out into the workforce can't find jobs, but they're incredibly good at coding
Yeah.
and they know how to run AI. Are they going to be the ones that will, well, I can't get a job doing anything anymore, like doing anything. I'm going to go and get into hacking,
Yeah.
make my money that way.
Well, that's why a lot of people now are pushing like trade schools and
Mhm.
not going to college because one, it's so expensive, and two, it's hard to get a job even if you do have a degree now. So,
Yeah.
not to mention the fact that trade schools, this is a huge shout out to the people who are willing to dive into that area. But trade schools are the end all be all of where people should be looking. If you don't know for sure what you want and you don't have this like desired passion inside your heart for being a doctor or a heart surgeon or whatever, right? You really should hit a trade school because that is the area that AI cannot take over. There's not a robot that's going to come in your house and fix your plumbing or your water system or your HVAC system currently. They are not going to be able to do that. And those are trades that people can immediately still find really good careers in, and make money and then grow in that, right? Everything from the apprenticeship up to a journeyman, etc. And so I think in aerospace, another really great area where that's the case is they have to have humans do a lot of at least the quality control, let alone the building of airplanes, right? No matter how many different types of machines and AI you have supporting it, the physicality of that for the FAA standards is huge. So there are really good career paths for people inside of trade schools. And I think trade school somewhere along the lines got kind of a bad rap, like, hey, that's not the same as going to a college, but it really is what makes so much of the world work that I think people need to think twice about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why a lot of people in my generation, they graduate with a college degree and then they become entrepreneurs because
It's true.
they're having trouble finding jobs.
That's where I think it's going to all lead to is entrepreneurship. But as for trade schools, when I was in school, we had automotive, and there was an actual section of the school itself that was a auto shop, and we also had metalworking and woodworking, that sort of thing. They took all of those things out of the schools, and then started pushing people into college to get these degrees that, well, a lot of people end up doing other things because their degree is worth nothing.
Yeah. But then at the same time, it's required for a lot of jobs when
Yep.
a lot of times you're not even using the degree you earned for that job. But as long as you have the certificate.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody the other day who's looking for us to do some recruiting for him. And that was one of the requirements was they had to have a degree. And I was frank with him. I said, so how much of your degree do you use? And he's like, my degree is in poli-sci. I'm like, and you run a business in fixtures and plumbing. Like, I don't understand. And he's like, yeah, I never used it. I said, but how much of your experience in the last 30 years of you owning this business is what really is making you successful? And he's like, all of it. And I'm like, so then walk me through again why someone has to have a degree to come work for you if years of experience actually has more value potentially. And he was like, well, they just have to. And I was like, but this is that mindset that we've got to start changing because you're right. You aren't always going to get to use your degree. So making sure that you've got the experience, the expertise, or if you're a business owner, open your mind to the idea that training people on the job can be so valuable. And Gen Z has unique skills that other generations don't have, that if they're willing to bring that into your work environment, you potentially are going to have greater outcome from the jobs that they're doing because they think of it differently. Their brains do not operate the same way as the individual who comes in from 9 to 5 and is so used to doing it, right? Do you notice that, John, in your environment?
Well, I'm going to go back to something Beth said a little while ago. I mean, I think we have to think different as we're hiring people and bringing in AI. Beth made a statement earlier in the beginning is, they're taught to use it as a jumping off point, even in group projects. That's as employers, we got to start looking at people that are coming out of school and having those conversations of, hey, so how have you used it? Because they may come with 4 years of, hey, I've used it every day. I've used it, but it's not driven my life. It's helped me, right? We've done it in work projects and everything else where all of a sudden you're bringing somebody in with 4 years of experience of using it at these points where all of a sudden it can take, as we stated, our generation and help us get into that, right? Into that mode of understanding how to use it, but not just being the driver. I think that's the key.
That's a really good point. And the other good point I liked in there is Beth will graduate with 4 years experience in a tool that the majority of the workforce currently do not know how to use to the same kind of proficiency level.
Yeah.
And we need to look at that when we're looking at resumes and or potential candidates, we need to look at what they bring to the table. But I also think it means, Beth, your generation needs to get really smart in how they incorporate that into their resume writing, to say, hey, this is what I come out of school with. It isn't just a degree in whatever, right? It's also years of experience using these tools that are needed in the work environment, and putting that tool on their resume, that kind of stuff, I think is also very intriguing. No different than when lean was really popular and became an additional need in organizations. If you had lean experience, it didn't matter whether or not you had ever worked in the same industry. Like they were eating you up because of that nature of those types of skills. And I think you guys are going to have hopefully something similar, because there isn't enough for all of your generation to become entrepreneurs. Like I appreciate it as an entrepreneur, I appreciate the entire idea of it, but you can't all become entrepreneurs. So we've got to figure out how to help your generation find ways in when people aren't adding new employees. And the baby boomer generation is still sticking around. Like they're not retiring at the levels that they used to.
Yeah. I really appreciate how schools, or at least mine, is not super against AI, because I feel like when it first started becoming popular, they were like, absolutely no AI, but thinking people were going to use it to do all their work. But now, like, my school just released a full AI class that's open to any major. So I think it's really cool that they're trying to incorporate it rather than take the easy way out and just say don't use it because it makes
Yeah, but
um,
when I was in school, the calculators first started coming out. We weren't allowed to use them in school
yeah,
ever,
yeah.
and look where we are now.
You know what? I don't think people even know what a calculator is anymore.
You know, say,
Like a physical calculator, because Beth, have you ever used a physical calculator?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
Well, I
for
mean,
tests we have.
everybody's got one on their phone.
Yeah, for
So
your phone, but like an actual physical
No,
calculator.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Like in math classes, we have to use graphing calculators.
Oh my God, I don't even know what that is. That sounds so scary. I don't want to know what a graphing calculator is.
Like you can plot points on a graph, but in a calculator.
Okay. Okay. Were you going to say something, John?
well, I think kind of go back to what, Beth just stated about the colleges, the ones that are embracing it. I think that's the point. We have to embrace it at the workforce, and not necessarily what we talked about of doing our thinking and things of that, but it's a processing tool. The safe thing is you got to understand, you want to process something, you got data points, you got ideas, you come together, but processing, I'll just share. I mean, I put together something that 15 years ago, just recently, that probably would have took me weeks and months of making sure the data is all right. Here I took about 45 different spreadsheets, put it all together, gave my thinking I wanted, and in about 7 minutes, it started to put together my spreadsheet. And I spent about 2 hours giving it, no, I want to see this. Boom, there it all is. I had all this data, but there's no way I could have done it by myself or even physically done it. But by using the tool, boom, there it is. And I think that's how we got to look at it, right? It's a tool. I go back to what Brian said. As soon as you think it's just going to think for you, well, that's a pretty scary spot to be in general, but it's a tool that can really speed things up.
And I
Oh,
think that's
yeah,
it.
that kind of reminds me of just basically driving. All of these artificial intelligence things that are happening in cars right now, like blind spot notification, backup cameras. People are losing the ability to actually look over their shoulder to see if there's a vehicle in their blind spot, because they trust these little lights on their mirrors to tell them that there's something there, or they don't look behind them on a regular basis when they're backing up. They just follow the lines on the backup camera on the little screen on the dash. Those
Okay,
cameras are really going to.
I'm guilty of both of those. I remember the first time that I realized how guilty I was. I decided I was going to drive an older car, I had borrowed a car from my husband, and I decided I was going to drive that to work that day. And I jump onto the freeway, and I look in my mirror for a light, and there isn't one. I fly right out of the lane, and of course, there's a car in the lane. And I was like, swerve back, and I was like, why did I not turn my head to look? Like, when did I become that person? So I totally get it, and I can't. One thing I have to learn how to use in my car that I want the AI for is freaking parallel parking, man. I cannot parallel park. I'll
It,
drive around the block 5 times.
well,
And
cars will do that for you now, but
hey, but I
it
don't know
goes
what
back
button
to
to push in my car.
it calls it calls comes back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast here, that if you allow it to do your thinking for you, human nature will continue that, and you will lose the ability to actually think about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it also is addictive. Like
Yeah.
I know that people can stay up all night long coding. Or like in the middle of a meeting like this, be on their computer coding or that kind of stuff, right? So I think it becomes addictive to the point where it can control your time more than it should. I think people need to be careful. You don't want to use it as a shortcut. So don't do something stupid like put your prompt in, ask it, and then just copy paste it in. I've seen people do that. I'll get emails sometimes that'll have things like at the bottom of it, you can tell it's AI. Please make sure that you change out or add blah, blah, blah to the email before you send it. Or this is just a draft. Do you want me to send it? And I'm thinking, really, you couldn't even read the bottom line of your email? Like, you got to be careful not to just automatically use it that way. I think that's where that shortcut component of AI is going to be detrimental. And it's also how you end up becoming like super obsessed with it. And John, I think you could talk into that because I think you're one of those people who can stay up all night coding.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you first start using it, it is a hair bit addictive when you get into codecs and you start creating things at light speed. Again, you're doing things, and the addicting part is something that would be exhausting, that would take weeks and months again. You have your information, you put it in, it's giving you, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. So, right, it can actually get to be pretty exciting from that standpoint of that. But the other side of this too is, I mean, for me, I'll just jump in here a little bit, is yeah, there's the cautions and everything. We got to be careful it doesn't overtake. But for someone like me that started using chat 2.5 years ago, I tell you what, it's changed my life. Like, because it's helped me do things. I struggle on a certain side of, putting emails together and things of that. To me, I where I've come and how I use it on a daily basis to make sure I'm moving forward and not getting hung up is amazing. And I think it's like everything, it's all about caution. But if you embrace it, man, it can also add to what you do and just make you more efficient.
So, so I guess, Beth, from your generation's perspective, what do you think the workforce and work environment needs to do to help embrace what you guys are coming out with tool wise? Because I don't think they even understand what you're learning, let alone how that can contribute to smarter, better work environments.
Well, I think what I was saying, what John was saying before is really helpful. Like, if you use it as a jumping off point just to get started on projects, if it's like a team project, maybe starting there and then everyone putting their own creativity perspective in it. But I also think companies need to really embrace the human aspect of it, because you don't want to lose the creativity that everyone brings to the table. And I think that could be a potential problem for my generation. So really making sure, if you're a leader, emphasizing the human connection and workplace, the collaboration part, but using AI as a tool, because we are really good at using it. We know how it works. We know, or at least my school teaches us, like where it gets its data from and everything like that, what to look out for. So I think it's going to be really helpful in getting things done quicker, but making sure that since my generation also is very creative, that you keep the human aspect to it.
I love that. And I think that's critical. I think the minute we stop using our creativity, we go into what Brian said, like the cars that drive themselves, and now we forget how to do some of the key things that are important, like social interaction, like creative problem solving, like one of the biggest ones, we're not going to dive into it today, but even difficult conversations. People, I've actually had one too many people use Chat GPT to come up with how to have a difficult conversation, then send it to somebody in an email. And you're like, what in the hell did that solve? Like, you just create a more passive aggressive environment. Like, you need to interact with people, and humans want to have, they want to have expectations, but they also want to have feedback, right? And so getting that from another person is important as opposed to getting it from a computer screen, I think. So before we wrap up, I am dying to know, if you, Beth, but also the rest of the team, if you have an agent. Do you have someone personally that you've named, that you talk to regularly, that you work with regularly, or do you just use like Codex, Chat GPT, OpenClaw, that kind of stuff?
I don't have an agent.
Okay.
I just use chat when needed.
Is Chat the only one that you use?
I use a lot of times if there's something that I'm not totally sure about, like if it's a law or something, like I'll look at Gemini, chat, like I'll compare against a bunch of different ones to see if they agree or not.
Okay. Wild. Okay. How about you, Brian?
Well, I don't have an agent. I know that Shanae has been telling me that I need to learn all this stuff, so I have been looking into agents and everything like that. I don't have one myself,
And what system do you
because
use? Do you use just
well,
Chat
I
GPT
use
or?
ChatGPT, but it well for learning all this stuff, I'm not using ChatGPT. But when I ask a question online, because I'm a little more security wary, I don't use Google or the big names. I actually used DuckDuckGo for my searching, and I ask it a question, and it whatever AI it's using is what comes up with the question. So I don't.
Okay.
But if I'm sitting down and needing AI to do something, I'll usually just go with ChatGPT.
Okay, makes sense. I think to me the difference between, and then I'm gonna ask you, John, but the difference between like just asking Google or DuckDuckGo, is that what you said it is? Or whatever, um, it's AI and it's gonna get you what you want. What I love about Chat GPT though, or Codex or OpenClaw, is if you have an agent or an account with it, it becomes smart.
Yes.
So like my company uses the same Chat GPT account for everything we do. And why that's really cool is because when, if like Beth is doing something for a person, it's going to pull all of the history that we've worked for that client out, and it's going to put it into the information she's trying to produce. So I love that we have an ability to train it to be smarter, to help solve problems when we use the tools. But I also think then when I get mad at the tool and I say not nice things to it, it stops working for me. So I probably am
Well,
not a good
when I've been
example of
using
that.
ChatGPT, I've been using it the company's login, and it thinks I'm you, and it
See, and
brings
then you all sound
and it
like me.
and it brings Pearl into the question too. Like,
So one of my questions that I have, one of my questions I have is, John, what about you? What do you use?
So yeah, I have a I have a couple agents. I have one named Pip that I'm starting to use. He's my day-to-day guy. We were talking this morning. He was giving me
He.
answers. Uh, so of things I needed. And you know, the side I'm gonna step in here as I answer this about agents is I also think this is makes us more creative. Like I've heard a couple, you know, where we got to be careful. So for me, 6 months ago, there's no way I could have done what I've done in 6 months. I've created two apps, working on an OS system, and got a bunch of ideas and ready to rock. Where 6 months ago, that would be like, oh, it'd be so cool, but I don't know anybody and I don't know how to get there. Now, um, you know, I've created things that I never thought I could do, and it's opened up a whole new world. And so when you talk about agents, um, I'm probably not going to go down this road with this app I created, but the concept was agents were going to run the business. So in the process, there's 21 agents built to basically run the business, from, problem solving to doing posts on LinkedIn. It was a sports app. I'm hitting the licensing part that I'm probably not going to go after, but the experience of getting there, in the future, I will have apps helping me do something, or I should say agents, because once you figure it out, and again, it's coming back to saying, hey, I want you to make sure I approve, right? But yeah, so I mean, and I did that with very little knowledge of understanding, with, again, going back to working with Shanae, and just, and then I go back to, though, so I work with Brian as well, and his always in my head, right? Of security is the first thing we got to worry about. So whenever I started anything, that's where I start. I'm like, I want to be 100% secure. And it's kind of funny. It comes back and says, well, we can't be 100% secure, but we can do this to make sure we're as secure as possible. So I just go to the side where I think two things. I think we can be more creative with it. And I also think companies do have to be careful with their IT departments, because where I see IT is going to want to hold it back. If there are people that are like, hey, that's job security for me, we have to somehow get this to our regular teams in a controlled environment to make sure we're not doing things that we shouldn't be. But when it comes to data and stuff, man, if you got a person that's doing data entry and going through data, my goodness, like, all I'm going to say is get them involved, because they can run through your data and do scenarios so quick that make your head spin. And here's the part about it, is your scenarios and things you can run to make you more successful. And I'm not even saying cut jobs or do anything, just giving scenarios to make sure your company's heading in the right direction, and not assumption of some saying, well, this is what I think the data is. Takes the data, tells you the story.
I appreciate that. I think I think, Beth, your generation is going to it's going to need to bring that level of expertise in AI to work environments, because what John said is correct. It doesn't need to replace people, but it can strengthen the bottom line of an organization by creating a more streamlined structure for jobs, for workflows. Like, I think if we would use AI as a, like, I want to say one of the two of you said that, Beth or John, as a process tool, like, how do we create SOPs and processes that are smarter and faster and leaner? That's, I think, where it's a gold mine.
Yeah,
So people just need to use that way.
I also just had the idea, like, for leaders, maybe trying to, I think it's important that we get teams that have like different generations on it, because even right now, like, we all have different perspectives on AI, and I think it's important for everyone to check each other. Like, are you being secure? But oh, this could make you really creative. And like, everyone has a different way that they see fit for AI. So I think it would be interesting and helpful for like the older generations to work with Gen Z who's coming to workforce, and everyone working together with their different perspectives on AI and just the world and the workforce. So yeah.
I love that, Beth. I think that leaders need to truly be on top of that and pay attention to the teams that they're building. Make sure there are lots of different generations on it, because the baby boomer generation that has seen more than any of us can ever imagine, um, they're some of the biggest skeptics when it comes to AI, but they have incredible work experience that they can bring to the table. And so I think you're right, and they're willing to speak out, and that's what you need, because Gen Z isn't always, and so it helps build the confidence. So as leaders, I think if you're going to take anything away from this, one, security, security, security. Two, don't let people use it as, a scapegoat for getting work done. But even more so, when you're using it as a tool, bring all the generations together because that combination, think of it as a generation, for lack of a better term. Think of AI as one of your generations, and bring it together with all the others to create the best, most positive, strongest superpower teams you can in your work environment. And then make sure you're double checking everything. Like, that's the one thing, you do not want to send stuff without double checking it, because it is just a tool. It is not a human. It is not going to understand at the same level, at least currently not. Who knows what the future holds? Currently, it's not going to be able to take the emotional concept of what you're trying to get across into play. And that's something, no matter how many times you feed it in and say, I want to be angry, I want to be happy, I want to be joyful, I want this email to sound this way, it's still not human. So if you're trying to make sure you're building out your communication through it, use your own personal judgment as well, because you want to make sure that that human connection in those communications are done right.
Yeah, definitely.
So I just want to say thank you both to Brian and John for being on, and for you guys' perspectives, and for reminding us that it's important to look at both sides of AI, both the concerned and protective side, as well as the creative side and the tool side. And then thank you guys both for also really diving into what that means for Gen Z and giving us some helpful advice on how to help them get prepared as they move into the work environment.
Yeah, thank you guys both for joining us. Thank you all for tuning in to the Fear of Snowflakes, where every generation brings something worth listening to. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel, which is HM Pinnacle Consulting. And you can also find us on Spotify by looking up Fear of Snowflakes. So we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.